Welcome back. Let's make a project component that will display the data for each project. Currently, we have a div that is displaying the project title, but each project has way more fields, like its description, link, and image. So the new project component is going to take care of displaying all of that. Now, the only trouble is, how is each individual component going to know which project object from the overall project array to display? The approach that we're going to take is to use component props. In React, props is a way for parent components to pass down data to child components. So let's start exploring props by creating the new project component itself. But rather than making a new project.js file, well, we can declare the project component in the same project.js file. So right above the class of projects, let's make a class called project. And this is going to extend the component class from React as well. We're going to add a render method, which is needed in all React components. And overall, we're going to have a return statement. Don't forget the return. And this is going to return a div as the JSX. Now we're going to make this div also display the project title. But the project data is going to be located in the project props, rather the component props. Like state, the props object is available within the this object itself. But unlike state, where the state is declared locally, the props actually comes from an external source. Still, the props object itself is going to have a project object to access, and this is going to have the project title. While we're at it, let's also add a log of this.props so we can take a closer look at this.props object. So in a string, let's log this.props, and then we're going to have in a second input the actual this.props object. Cool. Now we can use this project component as the JSX instead of the div that we currently have in the map function. So we're going to return an overall self-enclosing project tag. This still needs the key of project.id. And then here comes a part where we're accessing the props or setting the props. Now we have a project attribute on the project component, and we're going to pass down the entire current project object that we're mapping over. So notice that for the props to work, you need an attribute with the same exact name as a value that you're accessing within this.props. All right, let's go ahead and test this out now that we have the code for it. Head to the command line and fire npm run start in the portfolio directory if you haven't already. Then open up the app in the browser at localhost 3000. And what you're going to find is that the titles are still there. Cool. Now that's definitely working. Go ahead and open up the developer console, and you can use Option Command J in order to open it up automatically. And you're going to find that this.props has been logged 3 times for each of the projects. And each one is an object that contains the relevant information for the project. Awesome. Now, that takes care of the props aspect. Now let's go ahead and develop the full UI for each project component. Now we're not going to only want to render the title, but let's also render the image, description, and link. But rather than reaching into this.props.project to access each value every time, we can make local constants for each of these values in the render method by using JavaScript destructuring syntax. So it looks like this. We can create a title constant, image, description, and link constant by setting it equal to this.props.object within a pair of curly braces. So this syntax, the destructuring syntax, is equivalent to writing const title equals this.props.project.title, const image equals this.props.project.image, and so on for the description and the link. But instead, we can use destructuring syntax to declare each of these title, image, description, and link constants right away by accessing those equivalent values within the this.props.project object, not this.props.object. You probably caught that earlier. Okay, now with each of these constants available, we can now create a more complete chunk of JSX that is relevant for the project. First up, let's actually put the title within a header 3 element. Then we can provide an image element, and then it gets the image to display by having a source attribute, which in this case is the image itself. An image also needs an alt attribute to display some text in case the image can't load from the server. we're going to have a paragraph element for the description. And then finally, to provide a link on the page, you use an anchor element, and this has an href attribute in which we can put the link. So that creates the link source, and the text for the link goes within the pair of a tags itself. And we're still going to use that link for the actual text. All right, go ahead and save that. And once you have it, head back to the application. And great, that definitely worked. We have a bunch of new JSX within the application. Here's the example React application with its giant picture, has its description as well as its link. And if you click on it, it's going to go to an external location. All right, so we have all of that. One thing you'll definitely notice though, and you can't miss it, is that these images are ginormous. So let's get this in control by styling the image. Now in React, we actually don't need CSS to apply quick styling to JSX. We can actually do styling inline by providing a style object to the actual image. So this object is going to have keys that match CSS properties like width and height. Now you might recall these properties from any CSS code that you've done before. But if you're not familiar with CSS, don't worry, there'll be some ramp up on CSS basics later in the course. Also, CSS is going to pop up from time to time as you continue developing these front-end web apps with React components. But again, we can take care of the styling right here within React inline in the JSX. So let's add a width attribute within here that is set to 200, which is equivalent to making the width 200 pixels. The height is going to be 120. Cool. And as you save that, you'll find that in the application, the images are much smaller. Great. As one final change, let's make it so that these project items are rendered side to side rather than on top of each other. So we're going to use an inline style as well, but this time it's going to be for the overall div. Let's add a style over here. So make sure to have the pair, or rather two pairs of curly braces, one to declare the style and then one for the inner object. And this time we're going to provide a display value, and this will set it to inline block, which is going to make each block render side to side as block elements. The width of the overall div is going to be 300, and let's add a margin of 10 so that way none of these divs are touching. Go ahead and give that a save, and in the project's application, if I just zoom out a little bit, overall it's looking a lot better with the divs actually side to side. Awesome! Now, you're probably thinking that there's a ton of styling that's missing from the app overall, to which I'd agree. So there's going to be a styling video at the end of this section to make this app look a lot better. That being said, with this component completed now, we've covered the concept of props in React, and altogether, we've covered 3 huge React topics already: components, state, and props. So I think you're ready for an optional coding challenge. The next part of the project will be to add a component for displaying social profiles. These will be icons for sites like GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter, and your email, with relevant links to an online profile. That way people will have a way to reach out to you once they're convinced that they want to work with you based on your portfolio. The code is going to be pretty similar to the approach that we have for the project section. So again, it'll be presented as an optional challenge. That way you have the chance to apply what you've learned already with React. If you enjoy this content, head to davidtkatz.com. There, you'll find links to full courses, as well as to reach out and connect with me. For React and Redux in particular, you'll want to check out udemy.com/React Redux Bootcamp. This is a course I made to help you learn React and Redux the right way, and to turn you into React and Redux developer. Okay, see you in the next one.